This is a statue of Bacchus, a deity in the Greco-Roman pantheon. He is a god of winemaking, orchards, festivals, fertility, vegetation, and much more. This is a depiction of Aristeus, a demigod and cultural hero of ancient Greece who invented beekeeping and discoveries in handicrafts. And this is a marble relief depicting Silvanus, a Roman deity who was a guardian of the woods, uncultivated lands, and protector of field boundaries. But what do these three depictions of ancient gods have in common? They all share the same face. They all share this face. This is Antinous, a man who was born a commoner in the Roman province of Bithynia at Pontus in modern-day Turkey, sometime around the year 110 AD. So how did this young man's visage come to be the face of so many gods and heroes of the ancient world? How did a common-born man come to be immortalized in so much stone? This is the story of Antinous. This is the retelling. In the year 123 AD, the Roman Emperor Hadrian was in Anatolia, where he was personally settling a truce with the king of Parthia. Hadrian was an effective, restless ruler. Always on the move, the emperor frequently toured his lands, inspecting every corner of his empire, from the shadowy and mysterious island of Britain in the far north to the ancient and arid lands of Egypt in the south. Not since the age of Augustus had an emperor of Rome toured as widely as Hadrian. Even so, Hadrian was no conqueror. On the contrary, he was quite anti-expansionist, preferring instead to build walls and erect cities and stabilize the empire. In many ways, Hadrian was a new type of emperor. He preferred Greek culture over Roman, enjoying their sports and pastimes like hunting, an activity that Roman aristocracy did not partake in. He even styled a full beard in Greek fashion, the first Roman emperor ever to do so. In addition to these novelties, Hadrian also preferred peace over war. Having settled his business with the king of the Parthians, Emperor Hadrian continued his tour across northern Anatolia, inspecting garrisons and infrastructure, as well as donating funds to rebuild settlements that had been destroyed by recent earthquakes. It was most likely during this time, during his tour of northern Anatolia, that Emperor Hadrian came across a handsome youth who caught his eye. This young man, a common boy of only 13 years old, was called Antinous. While precious little is known of Antinous and Hadrian's relationship, it is known that Hadrian would soon grow very fond of the young Antinous, and the common youth was eventually granted a prestigious place in the emperor's inner circle of closest friends and confidants. Although it isn't known for certain, it has long been speculated that Hadrian and Antinous were lovers. This would not have been out of the ordinary. Male homosexuality in Roman society was not uncommon, even among the emperors. Any negative stigma Romans held for male homosexuality was reserved for the submissive partner alone. Even though historians aren't certain on the exact nature of Hadrian and Antinous' relationship, it was clear that the emperor loved the young man. Antinous was very good-looking. He had symmetric eyes, a straight nose, and thick, curly hair. In addition to his looks, the youth also enjoyed many of the same things as the emperor, like Greek culture and philosophy. Growing up in the east of the empire, Antinous likely spoke Greek, and he enjoyed hunting, famously accompanying the emperor on a lion hunt in Libya in the year 130 AD. Whether they were lovers or not, it was clear that the handsome Antinous was the favorite of Emperor Hadrian's. The common-born boy from the provinces had the heart of Hadrian. This, in and of itself, was a remarkable thing. Hadrian was notoriously paradoxical, perhaps more so than any other emperor. He was both Greek and Roman, At all times, he could be proud or humble, generous or miserly, kind or wrathful. He could be a governor or a tyrant, a poet or an emperor. Hadrian was the most powerful man in the world, and Antinous was his favorite. It was Antinous who held his heart. Emperor Hadrian's marriage to his wife Sabina was not said to be a happy one. While Hadrian was not unkind to his wife, awarding her with honors and titles throughout the empire, the marriage between the two bore no children. So it was that a common boy came to be the beloved favorite of the Emperor of Rome. For 7 years the two were bonded and grew closer and closer to one another. It wasn't as if Hadrian didn't have other friends or trusted advisors. No emperor rules alone. That being said, at the end of the day, when he perhaps wanted to relax and just be himself, Hadrian had only one man he turned to, and that was Antinous. After their success in the lion hunt in Libya, Hadrian and Antinous traveled to Egypt, where the emperor was set to tour more of his empire, as well as scout out locations suitable enough to build a new city on. The journey was to be a leisurely cruise down the Nile. It was all part of a sort of grand tour hosted by Hadrian, wherein the emperor and his entourage, some 5,000 people, would travel the ancient lands of Egypt almost as tourists. They had visited the tombs of Alexander the Great and Pompey, and they had seen the Great Pyramids, but that was not all. They may also have been in Egypt for Hadrian's health. The emperor may have been unwell at this time, and Egypt was said to be an ancient land of magic and wonders where a man could go to perhaps cure his ailing body. It was late October, an important time in Egypt. On the 22nd of that month, Egypt celebrated the annual festival of the River Nile, an event that remembered the Egyptian god Osiris's death in the Nile and his subsequent resurrection. In Egyptian mythology, Osiris, after being killed in the Nile, defeated death and rose again to give fertility to the land. The anniversary of his death in late October was a time of change, a time of death and of rebirth. And it was somewhere around this time that Antinous died. The details surrounding the death of Antinous are lost to time, though what is known is that he drowned in the Nile. It isn't known if the 20-year-old fell into the water, or if he was pushed, or if he went in as a choice. Perhaps the young man couldn't swim, or perhaps his clothing weighed him down. Maybe he was swept away by the current, or maybe he sank like a stone. Perhaps he went under, not wanting to come back up. It could have been an accident, or it could have been intentional. In any case, Antinous, the handsome and beloved favorite of Emperor Hadrian, was dead. The emperor must have been devastated. While he continued on with his journey upriver, it was said that Hadrian wept like a woman for the lost Antinous. Whether he had lost his lover or his best friend, it was clear that Hadrian was hurt. He openly mourned the loss of his friend, something that was considered somewhat inappropriate, for Roman emperors were supposed to grieve in private. It didn't take long for Antinous' body to be found. He was washed up on the east shore of the River Nile, roughly 200 miles from Cairo. Hadrian went on to found his city there, not far from where the body of his beloved was found. Instead of naming the city Hadrianopolis after himself, however, Emperor Hadrian named the city Antinopolis, or City of Antinous. That wasn't all. In the days following Antinous' death, Emperor Hadrian had the boy deified, elevating the dead commoner to the status of a god in the Roman religion. A memory cult was established around Antinous, and festivals were held in his honor. Temples were built and priests were designated. Games, rituals, and ceremonies all took place across the empire, all in honor of the drowned youth who had turned into a god. This sort of thing was not unusual for Roman emperors. Augustus had done the same with Caesar. The only difference was, that was Caesar. Antinous was not Caesar. Regardless, the emperor would have his way. Antinous' tomb in Antinopolis became a thriving shrine to his memory, and it wasn't long before other temples and shrines to the beautiful youth began springing up across the empire. Soon, his image was being copied in statues, paintings, and even on coins. Roman cults had sprang up before, but the cult to Antinous was different. In the beginning, Romans may have worshipped the boy just to appease the emperor, but in time, the cult grew to be genuinely popular. Whereas other memory cults had been fleeting things that lasted a generation or two, the cult of Antinous only grew in the following decades. It was a religion that, among other things, offered a savior and rebirth after death. As the popularity of the cult spread, the face of Antinous, forever young and forever beautiful, was soon being idealized onto other statues of gods and heroes from mythology. Though he had been popular in life, Antinous would go on to be far more popular in death. Antinous and the cult around him were so popular, in fact, that there are over 100 surviving images of him to date, making him one of the ancient world's most recognizable faces. So it is that so many statues came to share the same face. The cult of Antinous would not only outlast Emperor Hadrian, it would continue on for several hundred years before it was finally overtaken by a different savior-based religion that also preached of a resurrection after death. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider leaving a like or comment or subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next one.